For this lesson, if you could turn to page 813 in your textbook, I'm going to complete the A set problems for 1 through 4, and then I'm going to ask you to do the B set, and it's somewhat set up for you. Some of my answers are already in here that I've been putting in so I can keep this going at a fast pace. But the first one says that Darling Company purchased 65,000 units of raw material at $7. So we have to then find out how much the purchase was. So 65,000 times $7 is going to give us our debit and credit. So 455,000. So what are we getting? We're getting materials. How are we getting them? We're buying them on account. As you continue on, it then says on April 20th, raw materials were requisitioned for production as follows. And it says 26,000 units for job 50 at $6, and then 30,000 units for job 51 at $7, and journalize these. So our materials are becoming work in process. So job 50, and I do want you to write these out on the next one, job 50 was 26,000 times 6, which equals 156,000, and job 51 is 30,000 times $7, which was 210,000, and to get our final answer we would add those together and we come up with a debit to work in process. What are we getting? We're getting work in process products that we're working on, and we take it out of the materials. So that's the first exercise, and you'll do the next to the right. Moving on to the second one, so first we bought materials, and now we're on 17.2a, direct labor costs. During April, Darling Company, same company, okay, accumulates 12,000 hours of direct labor costs on job 50 and 15,000 on 51. The total direct labor incurred at a rate of $21.50 for job 50 and $24 for 51. So the different jobs accumulated different amounts. So we're going to look through those, and we're going to say, okay, job 50, and I'll just put these. So we have job 50 and we have job 51. For job 50, we had 12,000 hours times 21.50, and that's going to give us $258,000 in cost. And our next one, we have 15,000 hours times $24, and that gave us $360,000 in costs. So what is it costing us? We are, excuse me, jumps over. Our work in process is going to be debited for 618,000. And what are we getting? We're getting more work in process charges. So first we added the materials that cost them $366. Now we're adding in our direct labor, which was $618, and we credit wages payable because we owe the wages to the employees. Moving down to 17.3a for factory overhead costs. During April, Darling incurred factory overhead with indirect materials, indirect labor, utilities, and factory depreciation, and we have to journalize that. And this one's pretty simple. What are we getting? We're getting factory overhead, and how are we doing it? From our 4 categories. If you notice, materials is materials, whether it's direct or indirect. So we're going to debit the total, which is unknown to us yet. Sometimes students forget that. And then we are going to credit everything that we were given. So we have $30,000 in materials, indirect, 78,000 in wages, indirect wages, 7,000 in utilities that we owe, and 55,000 for depreciation that's accumulated. And then all we have to do is add these up. And we get 170,000. 17.4a is a continuation of this problem, so we'll need our data above. And it says Darling estimates total factory overhead would be $750,000 for the year total, and direct labor is estimated to be $30,000. So the first thing we need to do is determine our predetermined factory overhead rate, and we get that by taking the $750,000 and we divide that by the direct labor hours, to get our answer, and that is going to come out to 2.5. I did want this to stay on the screen. So 750,000 divided by 300,000 is how we get that information. The next part in B says determine the amount of factory overhead applied to our jobs in April using the direct labor hours from 17.2a. In this problem for job 50, there were 12,000 hours, and now we're going to take that at a 2.5 rate, and we're going to get a charge of $30,000. In our next one, we had 15,000 hours times our 2.5 rate from above, and that is going to give us 37,500. And our total would then be 67,500. So in C, we have to then apply this. Our work in process is going to have a credit to factory overhead to take away from what was actually already used. So it becomes work in process, and it's no longer an estimate in our factory overhead. So as we go through these, we're going to be discussing the estimated factory overhead and then with the actual applying factory overhead when it's used. So it's now your turn. You're going to try 17, 1 through 4B.